So again, I'll just say, welcome to Nina. She has to unmute herself. I've introduced her, but there are a few new people on. But anyway, so please, Nina, go ahead. We all love your class from last week.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you. I am honored to be here and really excited about today's workshop because what we're doing is we're building and building and building. And so we kind of did some foundational work last time. And so now we're going to keep building upon that. And then when we do the next workshop next week, we're going to kind of bring it all together. But just kind of a little recap from last week as to what we did. I'm kind of curious if you want to type it in the chat bar, who got their homework done. And if you're still working on it, fine. But I'd like to hear the me's if you got some homework done. And I'm hoping that you were able to get your vision dialed in a little bit. And if you feel like you maybe have a little bit of a clearer picture of what you ultimately want for your business, and for yourself, okay? Because it's really about what you want, and that folds into how you grow and build your business. So if you feel like you got a little clarity on that vision, you know, where you want to be more than just in the next 90 days, but maybe in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, chat clarity in the chat bar. I'd love to see who feels like they've kind of got that going on for themselves. And if you're still trying to, you know, kind of figure out that piece, put still working on it. So that way Debbie can kind of see who's still kind of working on that area. Then I also want to know who, about their goals, you know, were you able to kind of get that 1, 2, or 3 really big goals that you want to focus on by the end of this year? They fold into the clarity. So I'd love to see that. So if you were able to, and like I said last time, if you only have 1, that's fine. If you have 5, that's fine. But 2 or 3 is really good, strong goals that you want to focus on. And if you do, then I would say chat in or put in the chat bar goals that you're on it. You've got them established, you know what you're working on, and you got some clarity on that as well. Good, I love that. Seeing people kind of come up with the clarity. Yep, they've got a couple good ones. All right, I love this. Okay. And then the other thing was I asked you to drill down your goals with the 7 layers deep exercise and to have a very clear why on your goal, why your goals are important to you. It's one thing to set the goal, but it has to be heart-centered because that's what's going to keep you motivated and inspired to work on the goal. So I'd love for you to comment, I know my why, if you got that accomplished as well. So while you're doing that, love it, love it. I was able to get, oh, what, I kind of can't see that comment. I feel question I feel good about. Okay, good. Love it, love it. All right. All right. And so just like the first workshop, I think each of you should have the workbook for today. So use that. We're going to use that to kind of follow along, but it will also be your homework assignment at the end. Okay. So we're going to pop into the next slide here. So today's workshop, what we're going to focus on is the next 2 key areas of the success cycle. We're going to talk about creating the foundation for your roadmap, and we're also going to talk about the importance of setting boundaries. And the boundaries, what they do is they create harmony in a work-life environment, okay? And so I feel like now that you have your goals kind of identified and you have some clarity on why you chose those goals, the next step we need to do is start breaking them down into smaller chunks or sub steps, okay? And I like to call this breaking it down into the ridiculous, okay? So you may be familiar with the term. Let's see if I can give that to you. How do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time, because you can't eat the whole enchilada, right? So we want to do it 1 time at a time. So basically, when you are breaking down all the necessary steps that you would need to have happen in order to complete the goal, this also helps you to develop what we call a system, a process, or a routine, okay? So I want you to think of any routine or system that you create as a tool, okay? And this tool is to help you manage your time, your priorities, which also allows you to stop reinventing the wheel. Okay, I know I used to be really guilty of this. I would do a process and then I'd use it a couple of times and then I'd go, oh, I can improve upon that, and I'd start over again. And all I'm doing is using up my valuable time. I need to trust the process. And that's what I'm asking you to do, is trust the process that you come up with, okay? So when you do this, it makes achieving your goals way more manageable. You also will see more progress in the achievement of the goals. Plus, it keeps the goal from feeling like it's getting too big or it's overwhelming. So that's why we want to break it down into these smaller steps. And as we all know, when things feel really overwhelming, what does it do? It can create a sense of stress. And in the case of goals, sometimes this is why we tend to abandon them when we get into this place, because they get too overwhelming for us to accomplish, okay? I want you to think about a time when you had a very clear plan or roadmap that helped you to achieve. Let's say you guys are in the world of health and wellness, so you can probably relate to this a little bit, but all of us have had health weight loss goals at some point, right? And when you put a real clear plan together of what you're going to do, how you're going to eat, you're going to drink lots of water, you're going to get your exercise, what do? You tend to achieve that goal way more easily because you have a way, something to follow, right? So what were the benefits that you gained that by having some sort of a structured approach? It probably gave you a sense of confidence, clarity, success, accomplishment. You may have even felt more productive. You had clearer expectations of what you wanted to get. And you may have even had a place of where to start and then how to prioritize what you needed to do so that you could be more efficient in that. So by breaking down a goal and an action to create the sub-steps that support the action, you can see how it clarifies what steps you could or would need to complete this goal. So that's what we're going to talk about. So I want to give you some examples here. Okay, we're going to do two of them. But this first example, let's say your goal is to achieve a milestone. Okay, so now look at this here. The goal is what you want to achieve. That is the ultimate thing. That's what I want to achieve. And in this example, it is hitting a revenue milestone. So that may mean increase your monthly commissions by a certain dollar amount or a percentage, okay? So in this example here, you can see that the action, the step that you need to take to make this happen would be a specific task that contributes to achieving the goal. That's what the action is all about. So in this example of getting a higher milestone, revenue milestone, my action might be to sell more products to both new and existing customers. Okay, so that might be the action step that you set for that. Okay, now as you already know, your existing customers are your gold mine. So you've worked really hard to get them. So it's equally, if not more important, to keep them through loyalty. Okay, so you never want your customers to be a one-time purchase. So that's why I put in this example to sell more products to both new and existing customers. Okay, now the next piece is the sub-step. These are the smaller detailed tasks that support the action. So some examples of sub-steps for achieving a higher income milestone might be to develop a marketing campaign. It might be to invite prospects to an educational webinar. It might be to create promotional offers to incentivize repeat purchases. So a marketing campaign could be things like social media posts, an email series, and like I said, inviting them to an educational webinar to either introduce them to your products or maybe to share new product releases. I think I heard Debbie mention that October there was something new that came out. So this might be an opportunity to introduce that to people, or even to people that have been existing customers, to get them to understand what this new product is all about. And then also incentivizing the repeat purchases. So these could be, I don't know what you guys do within your company that you can do that, but it might be contests or things like that that you could offer to people, okay? Now here's another example, okay? So the goal again is what you want to achieve. And so this example is promote a new leader on your team, okay? So we all know that building a team, just like increasing our bottom line, is all a numbers game, right? So the more we invite, the more we offer, the more opportunity we have to not only bring more associates into the team, but also to get that team leader, right? So the action here is again that specific task that contributes to achieving the goal. So this one, the example could be sponsor more associates, invite them into leadership, and ask current associates to learn more about leadership. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about your team or associates or recruits or team members, whatever words you use for them. This is like a deck of cards, okay? So there's 52 cards in a deck. How many aces are there? There's 4, right? So it's going to take a lot of associates to get to your aces. So that's why I said it's a numbers game. So last week I do remember, or earlier this week, I remember many of you saying you wanted to build a team, you wanted to get more associates, you wanted to have more leaders. So this is really important. You have to start at the basics and really sponsor like crazy. People will decide what they want to do, and the cream will rise to the top. Your aces will rise to the top. So one of the things that I used to do in my wine business was each year, I would go back to my current associates and ask if they were ready to take the next step into leadership, okay? And honestly, I did this twice a year by design. I did it at the beginning of the year and I did it midway through the year. And I would invite my entire downline into leadership via an exclusive invitation. Now, here's what I found. Many times I had people that I had asked previously decline my invitation before. But on the flip side, many times when I asked again, they said yes. And here's the deal, timing is everything. Sometimes their job situation changed, their finances changed, their life was in a different place, and the timing was now right for them to step into this opportunity, okay? So always go back and re-ask people, and when they say no, I always say, may I ask you again in about 6 months and see if you're ready at that time, okay? So you might even have those leaders ready and to go on your team. Now, again, we've decided that this action here is to sponsor more associates and invite them into leadership. So then we have to break it into the sub steps, which are those smaller, more detailed tasks that support the action, right? So some examples here to support this action would be to host sponsoring events and opportunities with your team. And the beauty of this is you're encouraging everyone on your team to participate and invite people in. Everybody wins. So I'm inviting people, other people are inviting people, and the way today is you can do a Zoom event or something like that. And everybody can come in together and hear different people talk, different benefits about the company, etc. You could also host a group leadership challenge and invite top performing members to participate. And of course, you can do one-to-one leadership training with people. I would do leadership challenges twice a year as well. And so these were an exclusive group of people that I had reached out to that said yes. They had certain criteria that they needed to meet. And then I would put a 6-week challenge together with the goal being that they would be promoting into that next level of leadership, okay? So I hope you can kind of see that how by laying out the steps would benefit you to stay on track with your action plan, but also to achieve your goal. All right. So you're going to see in your workbook that you can take each goal and then create an action plan and a sub-step that is needed, okay? Oh, did I pull up the wrong workbook? Yes, I did. Hold on a sec here. Week 2. Okay, sorry, I had the wrong workbook in front of me. Yeah, so you can see that there is a page in there that you can, for each goal, there should be 3 pages, goal 1, 2, and 3. You'll see that there's an action step placed with a due date. So that, again, that is what is the major step that you need to take to achieve that goal. And then you'll see there's a column for your sub steps, okay? Now you'll also notice that, oops, let's see, I will hold back on that. Okay, you'll also see that you can assign a due date to the action as well as the sub steps, okay? So I think it's really important to give yourself a due date because this is going to help you create a timeline, okay? It's also going to create some urgency, okay? So when we actually start vision mapping your plan, which is going to be on Monday, you're going to use these sub steps that you've created and the due dates that you've assigned to map it out on your 90-day calendar, okay? So think of this just like writing down your goal. It becomes real and it creates that sense of urgency to actually work on it, okay? So what I want you to do is when you assign this, I want you to give yourself realistic due dates, okay? So the idea behind this is to set yourself up for success, not create stress and overwhelm yourself or give yourself a feeling of failure, okay? So keep in mind, you can have maybe one sub-step that would support that action, or you can have multiple steps, okay, that would support it. But this is how we start drilling down to the ridiculous, and it can be as elaborate as you want it to be. And I'm personally a super detailed person, so I find the more I drill down, the more clarity I have of what needs to take place, and it also kind of gives me a sense of comfort. But if that's overwhelming to you, just keep it to the fewer steps. Just make sure that you have clarity on what those steps mean in achieving your goal. In other words, don't be too vague, okay, on it. So in the chat bar, I would love for you to share an action that you would need to have in place to support the completion of just one of your goals. Just pick one and just right off the top of your head, is there an action that you know that you would need to take? And remember that, oops, wrong way. The action is the specific task that contributes to achieving the goal. So, if there's anything, and if you don't have it right now, don't worry about it. I don't want to stress anybody out. But if you have something that you want to put in there, okay, make some calls. I love that. Okay. All right. Love that. So you know what, Diane, making the calls to support your goal, then you can break that down into your sub steps. So for an example, making the calls might be setting time aside on my calendar. How much time do I need to set aside? Do I have a list of people that I need to call? What is my script? What am I going to say to them? If I leave a voicemail, what am I going to say versus speaking to them? You know, so think about those would be your sub steps to support that. Okay. Pick a number of people to call. Okay, yeah, okay, perfect. I love that. All right. So does that kind of make sense to everybody of what we were talking about there? Okay, good. All right, so now the next step is to prioritize your tasks, okay? And this is prioritizing those sub steps, okay? So this is also going to help you create that process or system ultimately. And the best part is you'll be able to duplicate this process and system each time you set a goal, especially if you have consistent types of goals for growth, for onboarding, new product releases, team building, and more, okay? So what we're trying to do here is to understand what order these sub steps and action steps need to be in to complete them. So it keeps things from going into chaos and it creates a natural flow, okay? So prioritizing your tasks is also going to keep you on track. So remember, it's one thing to have the goal, but to write it down and know all the pieces that need to take place to make the goal happen is super important. And prioritizing the steps is equally as important. So you have a clear picture of what comes first and when you need to work on it, okay? So how many times have you said to yourself, I just don't know where to start? If that's you, type in me in the chat bar, because I have been there a lot of times. Sometimes I get that deer in the headlights. I've got this great idea, but I don't know where to start, okay? That's where this is going to help you alleviate that, okay? So take the time in the exercise to actually put this in place, okay? So like I said, we're going to create that natural flow for yourself, okay? We want this flow to feel in alignment, and we want it to create a feeling of success that allows you to keep moving forward so you don't abandon it. You actually complete these things by the end of the next 90 days. So you'll also notice on that same page in your workbook that on the far right side, you have a space to prioritize your goals. So now here's a new question. How do you know which substance has a higher priority over others? Okay, so I want to talk about that a little bit. So I use what's called the ABCDE method, okay? So A, I like is for high priority. This task or step must be done in order to complete the goal. So for example, going back to, let's say if you were going to put a workshop together and you were going to invite people in to learn more about your business, okay? So you'd want to probably set a launch date for that. You'd probably want to create a way for people to register to come into that. And so this would, to me, would be a high priority because you want to start inviting people to get them to register and attend, okay? B is for needs to get done at some time within the goal, okay? So this might be creating an outline for that workshop, for the content that you want to be talking about. It could be putting a marketing schedule together of how you want to promote it to people to get them to attend, okay? C would be for, this would be really nice to get done, but it's not critical to the success, okay? So maybe you want to get on social media, maybe you want to do a live video, maybe you want to create an incentive. These would be nice things to have, but they're not critical to the success of the workshop, okay? So these are things, if you have time to get them done, they're kind of like the icing on the cake thing. D is for delegate it. This is something that can be, it needs to be done, but maybe it can be outsourced to someone else. So Pearl brought this up on Monday. There are things that you can probably delegate to team members. So if you're doing a group sponsoring, hosting event, maybe different people on the team could be doing different layers of things to get people there. Maybe that's the person who could do the social media or what have you, right? So you're all kind of working together as a group. And maybe that person has a more expertise in that area. Maybe they like social media more than you do, and it's a more natural fit for them. Okay, so think about how you could maybe outsource a little bit. Okay, E is for eliminate it. Okay, if you find as you start working through your goal and sub-step and it's not aligning, or it's not necessary to make the goal complete and it's just taking up time, do yourself a favor and get rid of it, okay? This is called bless and release. And believe me, that feels really good to let something go that doesn't make sense, okay? So next to each of the sub-steps, when you get to that in the homework, I want you to write down an A, B, C, or D, or E in that space. And again, you can go back and change the order, the priority of importance at any time, okay? But consider this exercise as a little bit of a mini planning session of breaking down your goals into that ridiculous so that you have your necessary action steps, sub-steps, and your prioritization, okay? All right. Now, this is also going to help you with something else that I find that's really important. This is going to eliminate procrastination, okay? And so the need, again, to constantly be reinventing the wheel. So procrastination is usually perfectionism. And perfectionism is we want everything to absolutely be dotted and T'd and everything perfectly, that the social media posts have to be just exact, the wording has to be exact. Stop worrying about that. The most important thing is getting it out there, getting it done. Everybody makes mistakes. I have typos probably in this PowerPoint somewhere, and I can't worry about that. What I have to worry about is the message that I'm trying to portray to you. Okay, so procrastination only holds us back, but hopefully this gives you some clarity of where to go, how to start, what to work on so that you can eliminate that as well. All right, and here's the bonus. When you actually do this exercise, you start buying back your valuable time. So you're working smarter, not harder. You're taking all the guesswork out. So here's my recommendation as you work through this exercise as part of your homework. Don't rush it. Really take your time. Be thoughtful of what steps you need to take. Again, let's set ourselves up for success. All right, so we're going to move into the next place, and this is setting healthy boundaries for work, life, and harmony, okay? So I'm going to talk about the importance of boundaries and how to establish them and understand why they're crucial to providing you with a healthy work-life harmony, okay? So think of a boundary as a guideline or a framework that allows you to protect your time and your energy. And it also provides a level of respect for yourself, your clients, and your team members. And here's what I think happens when we don't have or we don't establish boundaries. It can really lead to burnout. It can lead to stress. It can lead to overwhelm, inconsistency, lack of productivity, and poor work-life harmony, okay? Boundaries don't need to be complicated. I think you need to look at them as a way of setting expectations and communicating those expectations, okay? So for example, when you communicate to your clients or team members your office hours, this allows everyone to know when they can expect to connect with you and hear from you, right? Okay. And often, as I mentioned, we're all CEO, business owners, and entrepreneurs, right? And I feel like oftentimes we feel as though we need to put in more hours to successfully build our businesses, which is the exact opposite of why we wanted to become a business owner to begin with. Okay, we wanted freedom, flexibility, financial security, and we wanted to enjoy things in our life, right? So I think in our minds, we feel like if we put a few more hours in, we'll get caught up. We might be able to answer a few more emails, or we might get a particular project completed. And yes, sometimes that's definitely appropriate, but it's not appropriate on a daily or weekly basis, okay? So instead of working less, we end up working more, which, by the way, only leads to that burnout and stress. But sometimes I've even had people on my team, it led to resentment towards their business. It wasn't what they anticipated it to be, okay? So again, so let's not take ourselves down a rabbit hole of not having these boundaries in place, okay? So I feel like too is when we don't have boundaries and we kind of get into those weird habits of working extra time, I think what we do is we are creating like that busy work to feel like we're doing something instead of focusing on what really needs to get done. So you have to kind of ask yourself when you get into this space, if is the busy work you're doing productive? Is it bringing on new clients, teammates, new business, repeat business? Is it helping your bottom line? And is it allowing you to enjoy your life? And I think another thing that happens is when we get into this place of trying to be perfect all the time, we start to compare ourselves to others and their successes. And then we start asking ourselves, why can't I get XYZ when so-and-so seems so easy for them? I used to have a team member that on month end, I would tell her to get herself off of social media because other people would be out there always sharing their successes. And I made another level and I did this and that. And she was a very successful leader on my team, but she was always comparing her successes with other people, which all it did was harm her and hurt her. So I feel like we just need to recognize that we are really pretty awesome in our space of where we're at. Okay. Um, so, not establishing these boundaries also sets ourselves up for taking on too much at one time, and we don't say no when we should, okay? Now, I think this is a culture that many of us have grown up in. Many of us watched our parents work long hours. They worked on the weekends, they worked on vacation, and somehow we accidentally fall into that same trap, thinking that's what we're supposed to be and do. But you also need to think about what message that we are sending to our clients, our family, and our children and our team members when we do that. So being an entrepreneur is all work and no play. When you're bringing associates in, that's not what they want. They want to work a business at a leisurely way and make a lot of money. So let's not be available 24/7. So these are just a few reasons why it's so important to set and have and commit to boundaries. There are so many benefits that we will reap, okay, when they're established. And it's not only important to have them, but it's equally as important to communicate them, okay? How in the world do we expect anyone to know our boundaries or our expectations unless we share them, okay? So I'm going to share 6 benefits of having clear boundaries, and I love all of these. But the benefit number 1 is boundaries allow you to establish your priorities, okay? So you have to ask yourself, how often do you want to work? When do you want to work? What do you want to work on and who do you want to serve? Okay, those are really important things to ask yourself. You also need to consider what other things in your life are important to you that you want to spend time on or who you want to spend time with. I mean, this could be your health, this could be your family, this could be your free time, your me time. In other words, I would love for you to consider designing your business around your life. That's why you became an entrepreneur. So the second benefit is boundaries allow you to set realistic goals. Okay, that is why we spent so much time on your vision and your goals and creating those sub steps and then prioritizing them as you do that in your homework so that you can focus your valuable time appropriately and still have time for all the other things that you want to do in your life. So think about this allows you to do that. Benefit number 3, boundaries allow you to develop routines, systems, and process. Okay, so these are the tools that not only help you manage your time, but they also keep you from reinventing the wheel and keep you focused and efficient and on track. Boundaries allows you to manage your expectations. This is where communication comes in really handy. By setting expectations with your clients and family, even your team members, and letting them know simple things like your office hours, your schedule, and when to expect responses, okay? So here are some ways that you can communicate this very effectively. Share your office hours in your emails, okay? This is great for team members as well as for clients, right? When you onboard a new client or a team member, share this information with them as part of your onboarding process. None of us want to be texted all hours of the night. And I have one thing that in my 16 years of being in direct sales, I have learned there's really very few emergencies. Okay. So, so lay that out so that people know when they can get a hold of you, and then they will know what to expect in return, right? Let people know when you respond to emails, okay? So you can tell them I usually get back to my emails within 24 to 48 hours. That eases their mind and it eases yours, okay? And then also you can set up an autoresponder in your email. When somebody gives you an email, it can automatically pop up and say, thank you, I did receive your email. I do respond within X amount of time. And then here's the big thing about that. You have to honor it. You have to honor it. If you say that, and one of the best guys that I ever worked with in the corporate world, he had a rule: every email and phone call would be returned within 24 to 48 hours. And you know what was great about that? They didn't build up. It was off the plate. It was done, and communication. It built great relationships with people. Okay. So the next benefit, boundaries allows you to own your calendar. Okay, this is really important. This is where you get to create and control your time. Owning your calendar is about blocking out the time specifically around the goals and priorities that you're going to be establishing and finalizing in this in your homework. And by doing this, what you're doing is you're giving yourself that realistic time needed to work on your projects and complete them with strategies and timelines. Okay. It's also about banking in me time, date nights, fun nights, family time. Again, it's designing your life or your business around your life. Okay. And then the last boundary here is boundaries allow you to say no. Saying no, I cannot take on more at this time, is about being in control of yourself and your business. It's also very freeing. It's healthy to do. And when you say no, you are putting your oxygen mask on and you're putting yourself at the top of the list. So here's the deal. If you aren't in a good place with your personal needs and managing your time, you will struggle with helping others and building your business. So you're the most important asset. Okay. So you have to be able to say no. Okay. Now, before you set your boundaries, you're going to see in your workbook, there are a few questions that you need to clarify. So we're going to take, well, we'll do this in homework, but what I want you to do is I want you to really kind of reflect on them so that you can be realistic. Actually, I'm going to ask you to maybe, yeah, we're going to do a little chat bar here. But so the first question is what boundaries are missing from your life and your business right now? I'd love to hear just right off the top of mind. Is it office hours? Is it not saying no? Maybe it's not even having dedicated space to work your business. It could be as simple as something like that. So, Debbie, office hours. Distractions, yeah, not having boundaries on social media. Oh my gosh, that's a big one. I know that one is can be a real time suck. So, okay. All right. Great. Okay, now what boundaries have you set maybe in the past that have worked, but for one weird reason or another, you stopped using them? Okay. So sometimes I get out of the habit of the social media thing. I get in a really good, healthy boundary of I'm only going to post on these days. I'm only going to do this. I'm only going to do that. And then I go crazy. Okay. So, and I find that I really have to just set the time aside and be committed to just 1 or 2 hours a week. And then scheduling the time. Okay. I love this. Spending time on low priority tasks. Yep, exactly. Balancing my job and ASEA business. Yes. Time to set up exercise, got busy, stopped. Okay, yep, exactly. So these are all really, really normal things. I never thought about boundaries, so I don't have any. I want to be clear about this and better organize my work and time. Okay, good. I love that. Okay. Yes. So yes, one of the things, my boundaries there are, I have on my calendar the first hour of every day is my quiet time. It's my time where I go through my emails, I have my coffee, I read about all the stuff going on in the world. Sometimes that's scary, sometimes that's not scary. And then, but at least I have a clue. And then I work out and then I start my day. Okay. Now I realize some of you have jobs, so this is a little bit of a different thing. We are going to actually dive into your percentages of time on Monday. We're going to talk about how to establish a work week percentages of time and where to plop in what you need to plop in, okay? But this is a real thing for all of us that we have to kind of really figure this out, okay? All right, so then as you establish your boundaries, I want you to ask yourself, you'll see on the next page behind that, because you're going to spend some time really thinking about what boundaries are missing from your life, and then you're going to think about what you had before that worked. Maybe you'd like to re-implement a version of that. But then I want you to really establish 3 very clear boundaries, okay? But as you really do that, I want you to think about, how does this boundary benefit my work-life harmony? Okay. So again, this could be those things like the office hours, personal time. Maybe some of you do a lot of networking, and so you do some one-to-one connections. How often do you want to do that? How many networking meetings do you realistically want to commit to over a week or a month or whatever? And then do you have processes and systems in place that help you? Do you have something that onboards new team members or what have you? Okay. This is a time to think about what would be most helpful to you and your business. Okay. And then once you've established your boundaries, again, reflect on that, on how you can communicate them. Okay, to create even that next level of work and a life harmony. Okay, think about how you could communicate this to clients, how you could communicate it to team members, or even to your family. So for example, my husband and I sit down every Sunday evening and I go through my work week with him, you know, where I'm going to be, what I'm doing. He's retired, but we go through that just so that he has clarity. Because so back when I started this business, one of the things that my husband would get angst about, I would go and do a wine tasting and he would get a lot of angst over dinner. Now, I went to a training, and in the training, this lady was talking about a woman on her team, and her husband was getting angst all the time in her going out and doing her business because he was worried about not having enough socks. Okay, so because she did the laundry. So she was, once she found that out, she went out and bought like 24 pairs of socks. That way he would always have clean socks in his drawer. Well, when she was talking about that, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to go home and ask my husband, what is he having so much angst over? And it was the meals, it was dinner. And so once we figured out that, we came up with a schedule. If I had an afternoon tasting, we would eat when I got home. If I had an evening tasting, we would eat before I go out, because my husband doesn't cook. He's not interested in cooking. So anyways, you have to kind of think about, so now we sit down every week and we communicate with each other what's happening. So we create this harmony for the two of us. Okay. But you also, if you do, I don't know, some of you may have individual websites that lead back into ASEA. I don't know. A lot of people in my team did. So you can communicate this stuff on your website. Again, your emails. If you send out newsletters to your team or to your clients, you can communicate there, in your voicemail, whatever formats that you use. Okay, just think about how you can communicate. You can also use your boundaries as a reminder for yourself, and why they're important to you. So printing them out and having them up above where your workspace is, it's almost like having an affirmation. You can put them on your phone, you know, your cover of your screen time, I guess. I don't, you know what I'm talking about, on your phone, on your iPad, things like that. Just things to remind you why you're here, why these boundaries are important to you. And then always think about, do they align with your core values and why? Okay. So I think it's a really good idea at the beginning of each month to remind yourself of the positive impacts of enforcing your boundaries. And you can kind of look at them. Are they still in alignment? Do I need to add something different? Do I need to remove something? Okay. But this is going to help you build a stronger foundation and keep you engaged. Okay. And I also want you to think about how these boundaries make you feel. Okay. So there are these questions on the next page, how do I communicate the boundaries? How do I use them as a reminder myself? But that last question is, how would having these boundaries in place make you feel? Do they empower you? Do they make you feel strong? Do they make you feel confident? Do they make you feel in control, or is it something else? Okay. So that is what I wanted to talk about today. And so, like I said, here's your homework for today. You're going to continue to work on your actions. You're going to work on your sub steps, and then you're going to prioritize them. Okay. And don't forget to add in your due dates as well. Then you're going to dig into the boundaries. And I want you to really think about what's missing, what would benefit you, and how your boundaries will positively impact you. And then finally, think about how you can communicate them to everybody. And next week, what we're going to talk about is the power of delegation. Okay. Delegation is really, really huge. It's what to keep and what to delegate. So when we let go is when we grow. Okay. And then also we're going to start talking about how to vision map using your time block techniques and how to use your percentages of time. So everything that we did on Monday, everything you do today is going to build into that 90-day road blueprint that you're going to start creating on Monday. And that again will be homework for you. And then finally, your last page of your workbook for today, again, I'm asking you on a scale of 1 to 10, how committed are you? Okay. And again, if you're with 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, if you're a 7 or lower, I want you to go back and I want you to ask yourself why. Why am I not there? Okay. And what's holding me back? And if it's holding you back because you just didn't get everything done from Monday, fine. Give yourself grace. You're human. Okay. You got a lot of things on your plate. If it's something else, be honest, because if you really want this business to work, if you really want your goals to come to fruition, we've really got to figure out what's holding you back so that you can make it happen. Okay. And Debbie offered last week or on Monday, she said that if you're a 7 or less, she wants to hear from you so that she can help you. She is your leader. She's here to help you. She wants to see you succeed. All right, so there is what I had for you today, Debbie.
All right, if you have a few more minutes, because it's not quite the top of the hour, do we have any questions on any of these? For Nina, or if I can help. I need to set my boundaries and do all that stuff.
We
So,
all do.
but I can help you.
Yeah, go back through some of the chat and see, set up time, got busy.
I don't see any questions here, but does anybody want to clarify anything or anything, you can unmute yourselves.
This is Jeanette.
Hi, Jeanette.
Hi, I'm trying to blend, I guess, what you talked about last week and this week. The struggle I find that I have is I'm always great at starting. I feel really good first couple weeks, and then it's like the rewards don't come in. So is that why setting aside time for I mean, how do you reward the effort you're making if you're not getting your result yet? And I know that is where I fall down.
Okay, so here's the deal. This is why it's so important to set the timelines along with that, because the reward may take the full 3 months. It may take 6 months, but what you're doing is planting the groundwork or the seeds for what will happen down the road, so that you have to always remind yourself, we live in such a world of immediate gratification. And some of this stuff just takes time. It takes time to build leaders. It takes time to build the team. It takes time to get the bottom line dollars that you want. So don't give up. Just know that if you're taking the time to actually put this in place and then setting realistic timeframes for it, that's what's important, because you're going to see the milestones along the way. You're going to see that you are making progress. And also, no matter how small or big the win, even if it was that you got the calendar in place, that's a win. Okay, so reward yourself with that, pat yourself on the back, and realize that you at least took action.
And I might make one suggestion, because this helped me years ago when I was first starting. Pick something that you really, really, really like. It could be a banana split, or it could be time with your family, a complete hour, throw your phone down, whatever it is. And if you get your everything checked off for that week, and that's a win, then reward yourself with that. And don't feel guilty about anything. That's your reward. And I used to do that all the time, and just, usually it was time with my family because I was working so hard and such long hours. I hardly ever got time with my family to begin with. So, that's a really good thing to do, and just to feel really good about it, and tell your family, if I get these done, I get to take you to Disney World or the pumpkin patch, whatever. So anyway, that's just another thought. And Barbara has her hand raised.
I just had a comment on the boundaries thing.
Mhm.
Like I always think about boundaries as like, this is the time that I'm going to be available, that I want to have these mornings off. But the other thing that I had heard before from someone else is like, what is it that you're not willing to do? Like what would you, like, I would not be willing to, there's some things with the whole technology thing that I'm just not willing to do. I don't get how to do it. That is something that like my web page, for instance. I will only do so much with that, but then what I'm not willing to do, I would designate that. And it's just to have that awareness on the upfront that this is what I am not willing to do. And then, you have the option to brainstorm what else can I do here? Because if this is a stumbling block for me, then what else? Right?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So that's delegation. And so, yeah, and then we're going to talk about that on Monday, but that's absolutely it. These are things I don't want to do. I don't like doing. It's not my wheelhouse. So it's something that needs to happen probably, but how can we delegate it out? That's part of your boundary. These are the things that I don't want to do. And those will be things I'm going to give to somebody else.
And we can go over some of the things, and we can also, what we used to do in Polka Dot, which Nina always ran, is she always asked, does anybody need anything? And if somebody needed somebody to maybe create some social media for you, you can ask if anybody's using anyone, that's really good. And or if you want a like I use a TeamZ for my accountability website management that reminds me who to follow up with and all that kind of stuff. We can go over some of those, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
And then, so Pearl had her hand raised next, and then Diane.
Okay, well, I'm looking at the sheet, breaking down my goals to the ridiculous. I'm
Yeah.
looking at this and I'm a fly by the seat of my pants kind of personality, and these details. It was like, where in the world am I going to come out? It's goal number 1, action step, and there's 5, and then sub steps underneath. What
That's
is
where you
all
have to
that?
use your brain, Pearl. That's why you took this.
Well, and as I stated in the training too, Pearl, I'm a super detailed person, but others are not. So do what's comfortable for you. I just gave space on the worksheet to be able to do as much as you want to do. But if you feel like this is the action I need to take and this is the sub step to support it, and I'm done and I'm going to assign a date, then do what works for you.
All right, so we're not necessarily required to fill out every line on this sheet.
No. I just made the space available for those that would love to do that. But like I said in the training, if you're like one and done, you do what works for you. What I did say was also just don't be too vague so that you know what you need to do to get it done.
And
Okay,
we can talk about this on the accountability, the accelerator group. At some point if you want to. You know, like,
I'm
here's
sure
what I
it'll
want to
work
get
itself
done,
out.
you know, can you help me think of action steps that would help me get there?
Just making sure everybody doesn't think they have to fill out every line on this sheet.
No.
No,
Would wear me to a frazzle.
No.
well, we'd like to see that, so go ahead.
Mhm. Me to a frazzle?
Yeah. Anyway, I'm kidding. All right, so Diane, you're next.
Thank you, Debbie. And thank you, Nina. Your presentation is brilliant. I love what you're teaching, by the way. So it's not really a question, it's kind of an observation. So last night, I was actually thinking to myself, speaking of rewards, so is there possibly a reward to not following through with our goals? And so therefore that reward is keeping us from actually taking action. So I don't quite know exactly where I'm going with that. But I feel like there is a reward when we don't fulfill what we really want to fulfill. So maybe we get rewarded by staying in victim mode. Maybe you know what I mean? Like all those other scenarios. So if we can establish what is that reward and then make the reward for taking action better than not taking action, maybe that's an avenue we can take as well.
Sure. Okay, so I wouldn't say reward yourself for not taking action. I might say reward for taking action, consequence. Maybe that's the other side of it, is a consequence.
Yeah, I'm not saying that we do physically reward ourselves for not taking action. I mean, there's an emotional reward of some sort. Well, it allows me to stay lazy, and I'm feeling comfortable, and you know what I'm saying? So not a physical reward, like, I'm gonna get an ice cream for it or whatever. Yeah.
Right. So if I don't exercise, I'm going to get fat. So, I don't know. I don't know if that one's a hard one for me to, I understand exactly what you're saying, but I feel like it's more a consequence versus a reward, but that's where my head's going on that.
I would
Okay.
say if you're feeling that way, to identify it, because if you make yourself aware of
Right.
what's going on, then you can logically go, okay, you know, I'm liking staying lazy. I like just laying on the couch watching reruns of whatever. But is that going to be where I want to be in a year? Still sitting on the sofa watching reruns, you know, that kind of thing. So if you make yourself aware, then you can look at it and then logically go, okay, that's not what I want. So let me even force myself to get started, because once you get started, it's easier to keep going. It's like putting yourself in motion.
Right. And that's where I think Jeanette asked a moment ago too, is like when you see even the smallest of baby steps in a positive way,
Yeah.
I think it really triggers that, okay, this is working. I'm on the right path and I want to keep going. And you see the momentum on that. Diane, I have to really think about that a lot. I really have to think about that.
Well, it's
Love
like
it.
people that don't want to get well because they like to be, they get
Yes.
more attention for being a victim. That's
Yeah.
kind of what she's saying, I think. But I think you have to identify that, you know, it's just like, that's why I ask sometimes, do you really want to get well? And that stops some people.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I was trying to convey. The message is that we need to identify what that is.
Right, you do.
There's some kind of mental reward that we are receiving on a soul level or whatever, that's keeping us from moving forward. And I mean, I just use being lazy as an example. I'm not saying that that's my thing. Yeah. So, but identify so you can move forward.
So you
Yeah.
can be aware of it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
And
and
if
I guess that's a good technique, like for those of you that are building teams or leaders, to ask and they say, I want to be a leader, I want to be a leader, but they're not taking the action steps that they need to take to move into leadership. That is a really valid point to say, what is holding you back from that? Because we've had this conversation, we've kind of laid out the groundwork. and I don't see the steps taking place. I mean, that's holding them accountable at that point, and then they can, I guess that gives them an opportunity to come back and maybe be real honest about maybe this isn't really what I want. And I've had people say, I told you that because I thought that's what you wanted to hear.
Yeah. So if you have one more minute, Nina, Sandra Parks has her hand raised.
You're muted.
Okay, there. On the heels of that conversation, I have a question, but on the heels of that conversation, I don't know how many people here are aware, but we've got all sorts of garbage running subconsciously that will hold us back. And that there's ways in the quantum field to go in and change those programs and download new, exciting, wonderful stuff that we want. But I mean, I think so many people are even fearful of just the fear of succeeding. Like we think we want it, but then what's going to be required? So anyway, just a thought. And I think as long as those are there, it's like pushing mud uphill, like you just can't really get anywhere. But my question is this. So I am by nature like super detail oriented. And yet when I look at these questions, and this may have something to do with what I was just saying, I feel like I hit a mental block. So Debbie, what you were saying, I think to Pearl about maybe we could do something to have people help us kind of brainstorm, because people will contribute things. I'm like, oh yeah, that's great to look at that. But I just hit a mental block. Do you have, and it's beyond that. I don't need to drill down deep. I think I don't want to set myself up for not going deep enough, like you were saying, like not being, it's only specific. It's like really getting down to it. Do you have any advice in that area, Nina?
Well, I would say that would be a great little like power team. You've got some people that can kind of form a power team. Maybe it's a similar goal that you all have. Maybe it's building the leader or the team members or what have you. Everybody's going to have different insight and ideas of either what has worked for them, ideas of what they'd like to see happen, different expertise on how they would approach it. And then you can brainstorm and talk and create ideas that way as a group, and then maybe be accountable to each other.
Yeah, I think if we go over some ideas, and I don't know, I mean, I don't, if you can relax yourself a little bit, sometimes, I know this sounds counterintuitive to some degree, but if you have, like Nina, I'll go back to your wine thing. If you have a glass of wine and you kind of relax and you let your mind go a little bit, and then you go, oh, okay, and then I don't know, I know companies do microdosing for that very reason, to be more creative and stuff, because they're relaxed a little bit and then their ideas start sparking. That might be another thought. I mean, you don't have to have a drink. You could maybe do some meditation for a few minutes and then relax your mind or something like that. So anyway, but we can go over that. I do, and not everybody's on the WINS group, but on Monday mornings at 8:30 Mountain, I do an accelerator group for people who want to move forward. And we've formed kind of a mastermind, but we could get on there this Monday if you wanted to, before Nina's third class, and go through some of those ideas. I was going to tell people about Team Z, which is what do you call it? The CRM? No, the daily method of action, a DMA.
It's a CRM. It's a CRM.
It's a CRM. Thank you. Anyway, that has helped me and my daughter a great deal. And if Pearl wants to go over, she's got another one. But anyway, I was going to do that briefly, but then we could get into kind of masterminding this before I go away.
So you guys are going to do that. Maybe send Debbie some like top level questions, like so that she can go, because maybe each of you send something into her. There's probably going to be a lot of commonality, and then she can take the top ones and you guys can brainstorm on those top ones or something.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to do that.
What,
On the
what
same Zoom number. Yes. Barbara.
same Zoom number is this?
Yeah.
And what time on Monday?
8:30 Mountain.
Okay, thank you.
And you know, Sandra, something you said, the fear of succeeding, because a lot of people do have the fear of not only failure, but they have the fear of success. And one of the reasons they have that fear of success is because now all of a sudden everything really came to fruition. I do have a larger team. I am making more money. I do have more leaders, which for some people it could be like this. Now I have more work. What am I going to do? How am I going to manage all this? And I actually fell into that when my business started exploding. And it was like all of a sudden I have like X number of leaders and I have no clue what to do with them. And so I did, and I felt sort of like of an imposter. I wanted all this, but I don't know what to do with you people. So it's that side of it too. So maybe kind of going back to Diane a little bit, you know, it's like there's that fear in that respect too. So
I've had people tell me, I wanted to be a diamond, but then I see what you do, and I don't feel like I want to do that. And, you know, if you're a diamond in ASEA, there's certain things that the company kind of expects of you to some degree, and one is leadership and one is maybe putting together classes like this. And I, you know, I have loved this class, but putting it together was a hassle. People were texting me all the time. Can I join? Can I join? You know, and it got to be a lot after a while. So yeah, I can understand that, but that depends on where you want to be and what you want to do with your life. Because it is fun to be a diamond. I'm going to Dubai next week, so there you go.
all right.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Nina, because you stayed a little bit later. So
Oh, no worries.
I think I've gotten such amazing feedback. You have just been wonderful so far. So we look forward to, I guess, our last class and then moving forward.
Yep, awesome. All right, well, I'll
Continue.
see, have a blessed weekend, everybody. Do something fun, and I'll see you on Monday. Thanks, Debbie.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nina. All right.
Thank you. You are fun.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. It was great.
Thank you.
Really great.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.